What's up everyone? I hope you're having a great weekend. In this video, I'll be talking about why I think Disney is a great buy around these prices. And I'll try to make this short and sweet, so let's get it. So first, I want to talk about how Disney makes its money. So as you can see from this handy dandy pie chart, it's divided into 4 big sections. They got the parks experiences like Disneyland, Disney World, its cruises and whatnot, which is the biggest pie. Then they have their media networks. This is your cable TV. You got your ESPN, Disney Channel, Fox, ABC, etc., etc. Then you have the studio entertainment here at 16%. This is your big screen movies, your Marvel Studios, your Frozen 2, Let It Go, Disney movies, among other things. And then lastly, they have the direct-to-consumer. This is a streaming industry like Disney Plus that they just came out with, Hulu, ESPN Plus, and of that nature. So Disney has been hit pretty hard in almost all of its sections. First, its parks, obviously, everything has been shut down from its parks, theme parks, cruises, any of the experiences, things like that. So, bam, that's gone. Then you have the media networks. TV still on, cable still on. People probably watch a little more TV. But the biggest part of this is, I don't know if you know this, you probably should, ESPN and its networks. And that has been shut down because there's no sports going on. I mean, they're so desperate right now that they're replaying basically every playoffs from past NBA. They've bought streaming rights for Korean Baseball League, which we'll get to. But there are places where sports have returned. So this has been just, well, it's not entirely shut off, but a big chunk of it has been down. Your studio entertainment, I mean, do I even need to say this? Theaters are closed, movies are delayed, productions have been halted, so that's been shut down. This little darling that they started, especially Disney Plus last November or December, has been actually really, really good. So that's one small positive among many of the negatives. So we're going to hit each of these pies and talk about why I think there's a lot of news, a lot of sign for some positivity to be injected to this. So let's first talk about, let's get rid of this. Okay, let's first talk about its theme parks. Here we go. I gathered some news articles for ya. Okay, so good news. Its Shanghai Disneyland location is reopening tomorrow, actually. Its tickets were sold out the very first day they went up. And they'll be reopening. I mean, I guess the demand is still very much there. Now, things are changed. Experience is a little different. The people in there have to wear face masks all the time. They'll be screened beforehand with phone-based app as well as temperature screening. The experience will be less because children's play areas, theater shows will be shut down. They're still shut down. And the capacity, I believe they're working at max 30% of its normal capacity. But it's a start. I mean, when everything else has been shut down and closed, reopening is like sweet rain in the desert, right? It's one step at a time towards opening possibly other locations and increasing this capacity little by little. So now, That's in China, where things kind of got crazy initially, and they recovered faster or earlier because they started earlier. So what about US, right? US is not as close to returning. However, Disney Springs, while it's not a big theme park, it's a dining and shopping complex in Florida. They are planning to reopen on May 20th, which is only 10 days away. Now, I believe they're not opening the entire place. It'll be phased reopening. They're only opening up some of the third-party stores. And they'll be following all the safety measures, safety protocols listed by the state rules, and they'll be following all that. They will be at around 25% capacity of normal capacity. But again, it's a step in the right direction. And hopefully this phased reopening will lead to increased capacity, as well as opening other bigger theme parks, such as Disney World in Florida, same state. So I think that's a really, really good sign. All right. Next, let's talk about the sports world. It's a really fun one. Sports is, I think, one of the few things that can bring people together, even though they're complete strangers. Music is also one other thing, but that's how powerful sports is. And people have been deprived of sports for a few months now. And like I said, ESPN is streaming Korean Baseball League. Like, that's how desperate people are for sports. While none of the sports will return to US within, I would say, probably at least a month or two, right? And even when they return, it'll be empty stadiums, just like other places that have already started to return. But there's some rumblings, some buzz that's pointing to maybe possibility of return. And I think that hope is enough to kind of carry and push Disney until it does return, where I think Disney will be able to return to kind of normalcy, at least in terms of streaming and the media, like ESPN. ESPN is a huge part of Disney. They bring in so much money, it's ridiculous. All right, so if you have been following, NBA has been suspended since March 11th, and they don't have anything proposed to return, but they're starting to get some ideas. One of the ideas is either Orlando or Las Vegas being the hub, and everyone just coming there and playing. All the players, teams staying in one place and playing there. And some of the teams actually started to open up their facility as well. Like Cleveland Cavaliers, they just opened up. Trailblazers, they also opened up their facilities. And players are starting to roll in and get some individual workouts, which is a good sign, and also which will help facilitate players returning to basketball, because they haven't been playing for about 2 months. One thing I do want to mention is among the hub, some of the ideas have been thrown around. They mentioned, maybe they can use the Walt Disney Resort in Orlando because everything's kind of closed there. So that'll be a good boon for Disney as well if that does happen. Okay, now let's go to baseball. Baseball, I think, has much greater chance to return because they're only about a month behind schedule. And 2 countries have already reopened their professional baseball leagues. One's Taiwan, the other's Korea. Taiwan already has fans in stadiums, which is pretty amazing, although it's at maximum 10% capacity. So their smallest stadium seats 11,000, and the maximum capacity for any stadium is 1,000. So it's less than 10%. They're doing all the safety protocols, as well as they have to leave 2 seats in between anybody, as well as at least 1 row. So even if you come together, you can't sit together. So I don't know how much of an experience that is, especially when you don't have other fans around you. But at least you're allowed in the stadium. All right. Let's go to Korea here. And again, you can catch Korean baseball on ESPN. They're streaming. I believe the hours are a little bit weird, obviously due to the difference in time zones. But if you want to catch some baseball, my Korean brothers, they're playing lights out. All the players wearing masks. They get temperature checks and things like that. Huge safety protocol. One difference is Korea has done a really, really good job of testing everybody, testing a lot of people, and they were able to control it really, really well. And from what I've seen and heard from my relatives and whatnot, people are just kind of going outside and doing their normal things almost, it seems like. So they're almost pretty much back to almost what can be considered normal in Korea. So kudos for them. One thing I do want to mention is I don't want to give a false idea that any of the sports will return within next month or 2. The Taiwanese league has 4 teams. Korean league has 10 teams. MLB has, what do they have? I believe 30 teams. So the scale is different, both like traveling wise as well as just roster size and team size. So it's not exactly apples to apples, but I think having these other leagues open up, it gives Major League Baseball really, really good idea and a model that they can possibly follow or emulate to try to expedite their return within this season. When MLB returns, the stadium, for sure, no doubt, it'll be empty. No fans will be allowed initially, which means just, more coverage by networks like ESPN, more even possibly streaming the games. So I think that can be a really, really big thing for Disney, especially when they own ESPN, which pretty much dominates sports. More good news. MLB is expected to propose a specific plan, or whether it's probably phased plan within the next week. So we'll get a better idea of what they're expecting to be kind of a reopening date. And let me see here. Yeah, and then also teams have started to tell its players to prepare for kind of a mini spring training that may be in June or so, and then season starting in July. We'll see if those are optimistic or, I don't think it'll be any earlier, but that's kind of what they're expecting, it seems like. Which is, I think, within 2 months, that's pretty solid, given that players have to hold spring training for probably at least a month to get back into playing shape. Okay. Lastly, the NFL. They just released their schedule, which was normal. It was a normal schedule. They're starting around September, just like they usually do. And their schedule have not been altered in any shape or form. Now, that doesn't mean that they're not worried that they may not start this season on time, as well as what their stadiums will look like. I think most people within the league are expecting the stadiums to be close to the fans, at least to begin with. But kind of just like baseball, by May 15th, the league wants the teams to have safety protocols to allow players to return to their facilities. It will be phased, as well as they'll have to follow all the rules and the limitations from their respective state and local governments. So could it be possible that some facilities open up while other places are still closed because they're in a different state? Maybe. I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but that's what they're doing. They're getting ready in a phased fashion, but trying to go business as usual. Like I said, schedule was released, normal schedule. Now, this is where they mentioned the streaming thing, which again could be a plus for Disney or ESPN specifically. They were talking about how if college football were to be canceled or not return, then NFL can possibly move some games to Saturdays, and those games will be streamed through a third party, whether Amazon Prime or ESPN Plus. I'm pretty sure even games on, well, if there's no fans in the stadium, they might open up the streaming services more, on top of already the TV coverage. So again, more avenues for ESPN to capture and distribute the return to the sports. And finally, okay, I've combined these two sections. This is the movies and streaming. There's a little bit of overlap between the two. A very few states have reopened their theaters, but even so, individual theater owners are a little hesitant, just because it's you're putting people within a confined space, which is not very, very ideal at this point. None of the three biggest chains, AMC, Regal, and Cinemark, none of them have opened, and they don't have any plans to reopen before June, which is still a month away. And because of this, all the movie releases have been delayed. Because even if some states open up, as long as the bigger cities the bigger cities if they're not open, then the studios are not going to make too much money, because that's where they make most of their money. So they won't be opening until those major cities also open. However, like I said, streaming, not only Disney Plus, but Netflix, Hulu, among other things, Amazon Prime, the new one, what's the Quibi? Any of the streaming platforms have gained because of people staying home, doing nothing. But so Disney Plus have actually gained a lot during this time. And what I like about Disney is that although they have great lineup in the big screen, they have Mulan, the Black Widow, I think, among other things, other movies that I can't think of right now. But they have a great lineup. They did really, really well in terms of movies, especially through the Marvel studio, especially last year. And I think they'll be able to continue that on. But because they have Disney Plus, a streaming service, they have the flexibility to maybe turn it into a Disney Plus thing. They've already started with one movie, Artemis Fowl. This will be released through Disney Plus on June 12th instead of coming to the theaters, which was planned to be May 29th, which is obviously not happening at this point. And they're taking this kind of case by case or movie by movie. All the other ones are still tentatively scheduled to release in theaters, like Mulan, July 24th. But they said they'll debate, or they said they'll discuss it on a case by case basis. But it's good to have that flexibility, whereas perhaps other studios don't have that luxury. Now, finally, Disney's crown jewel right now, Disney Plus. It has been crazy. It was launched about 6 months ago. It already has 54.5 million subscribers, paying subscribers. At the end of March 28th, they had 33.5. And what is that? That's about a month and a half or so. In a month and a half, they've gained 20 million subscribers. That is crazy. And we can look at the chart here. Netflix, the king of streaming platform. We're comparing this to the king. Netflix at almost 183 million subscribers. Now, they've been around for a really, really long time. And for the majority of time, they've dominated. They were like the only streaming platform. So it makes sense that they're still dominating. But within just 6 months, Disney Plus has caught up to 54.5. 54.5 divided by 183, that's about 30%. So in 6 short months, they've caught up 30% to Netflix. Now, they won't continue to grow at this exponential level, but that is ridiculous. That is some crazy number. And along with when sports come back, especially if they add that to the streaming service, I think a lot more people will subscribe to the sports fanatics. And here's the thing with streaming or subscriber model services. Here's the thing. Here's a little secret. Once you subscribe, it's super hard to unsubscribe. Not necessarily because they make it hard, like some like computer programs. Like if you try to uninstall, they ask you a bunch of weird questions. Not because of that, but because people are lazy. Man, I remember I signed up for Amazon Prime, right? I'm like, oh yeah, let me try this. I'm gonna unsubscribe. I think I had it for 2 years before I was like, man, I don't use this as much as I thought, and so it's not really worth my money. And that's the secret with subscribers. The price is not very much if you think about it. I think Disney's is about what is it about $7 to $8 per month. That's like it can be like one venti Starbucks drink per month that you're not drinking in order to have Disney Plus. I mean, just look at your YouTube subscriptions, right? I know it's free, but I guarantee you there will be channels that you don't watch anymore, but you're still subscribed because you are just too lazy to take it out. Or go to your Facebook. I bet you there are Facebook pages that you've liked before that you no longer even have any idea that it exists, right? Because you just don't pay attention to it. Even though you get it through newsfeed and whatnot, you just don't think to go over there and click the button and unfollow or unlike, because that is so much work. So although Disney Plus will continue to gain a lot of subscribers, I don't think it'll go down very much once, we kind of hopefully return to somewhat of normalcy. So a lot of positive things, I think, coming within next several months or up to a year for Disney. So should you buy right now? Well, let's take a look. That's a different question. So we're going to go to the chart here. Okay. Another reason why I chose Disney. By the way, before I tell you, please, if you like this video, please like the video and subscribe. It'll help me tons and tons and tons. Thank you so much. Okay, so one of the reasons why I chose Disney is because Disney, compared to other kind of large cap stocks that I've been following, they have not retraced as much as others. I've looked around, and other stocks at their current price, if you were to kind of go back to their previous high before the whole downfall, you get about I would say probably 15 to 20%. But Disney, although yeah, it has come up a little bit, but if you can see right here, it's been kind of just going up and down in this channel. Okay, so it still has about, if it were to return to the previous high or so, still has almost I would say safely, right? I'd say about 35 to 45% room to grow until it reaches back to its previous high. So a little more room to grow with I think tons of positivity that could come up within next several months. Now, if we go a little bit more locally, okay, so we've been in this channel for a while, up and down, up and down, up and down. It broke out a little bit, but then it came straight back to this bottom, this support, and now we're up again. So here, what I would do is, again, this is more long-term play, right? So if it does fall within the next few days or so, right? If it falls and it hits this support, I'd probably get in. It'll be hard for me not to get in, let's say that. Even if it goes below this, I think at this level, it's hit it once, twice. Oh, that was really bad. 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. And it's bounced back up every single time. So I think once it hits here, so it'll go back up. So around this level, which is about 100 or so, maybe a little bit below 199 or so, I definitely be looking to get in at least a small position. Now, if it next week, hold on, let me get rid of that. Next week, if it goes up, then I'd be looking for, if it goes up and it comes down and bounces off of this, it's been a resistance, and now it may turn into a support, and I would look for it to go up. So I would look to get in here. That's about 108, 109 or so, in that area. If it goes up all the way here, then again, there's a slight resistance from previous local high. So I look for the bounce here, then try to get in. But if you're really looking for a long-term play, you're like, man, I'm just going to put it in. I'm not even going to worry about it for at least a year or so, or even more. Then honestly, I think it's completely fine to just, get in and just hold it. Because in a bigger picture, all right, bigger perspective, like you're trying to decide whether to get in, let's say like here or here, where overall picture, it's going to be like probably the same, right? So if you get in a little bit less, let's say here you go to 140 or so, that's about 30, 31%. And let's get a little bit high, you go, it's about 26% or so. Yeah, a few percentage points, which can be huge depending on your position size, but in the overall scheme of things, not that much. One thing I will say is it was disappointing that they had to stop their dividends, but they said they'll review it in 6 months. They pay biannually. So they'll review it in 6 months, and I don't think this suspended dividends will be a long-term thing. So I'm not too worried about it. And also, I think them suspending the dividend, it could be a good sign that they're actually willing to really focus on building a strong foundation during these hard times to come out of it even stronger. So although it's disappointing, yes, as Disney stockholder, overall, I think it'll be okay. So with that said, thank you so much for tuning in. I will be streaming, try to stream every day during the market hours this week, depending on whether I have a day trading opportunity or not. So please subscribe if you have not, and comment below on what you think about Disney and whether you think I'm right in my thinking, or if you think Disney doesn't got really a shot and it'll probably go down lower. Let me know what you think in the comments below. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, for listening, and I'll see you next time.